Here's the G0602 lathe, Grizzly lathe, pretty common. Today we're going to replace the single-phase motor and put a three-phase and VFD on it, VFD drive. Here's the motor back there. DRO here is aftermarket off of Amazon, just in case you're wondering about that. But we're going to take the chuck off. I've got the motor over here. Let's see, here's the motor. It's a Leeson. It's the direct metric replacement for that motor. The mounting, shaft size, etc. is all the direct bolt-on. It's a three-phase motor. Got a TECO VFD drive here. So, and then I'm not going to keep the original pulleys. I got some pulleys off Masumi, and this is an 8YU belt. So here's the spindle pulley and spacer and the motor pulley. That's what we're going to replace. This little block here is something I made. It's a lathe jack. It's a piece of wood, a couple of carriage bolts, double nut it, screw these down, and it raises up the lathe. We'll look at how that works. I know that typically the original motor is difficult to get off, but I think I have a way around it to make it easier, and we'll talk about that. Back over here, these are the change gears. I have them off the lathe. I've been going to do an electronic lead screw for a long time. But after I do the motor, we'll get on to doing that. Here's a encoder mount that I made a long time ago. I'll leave a link to a description of the series for that. And I'm going to be replacing this pulley and the motor there, as well as the, I'm not going to use the same pulley or a V-belt. All of this, auxiliary pulleys, that'll all go away. That'll all be removed. We're not going to work on electronic lead screw today, but just replace the motor. All right, first thing I want to do is move the lathe out. I used a floor jack there. So now we can see what we're doing here. There's the motor. So let's take the belt off. I'll take the chuck off too. Go. All right, so we don't want the spindle falling all the way out. We want to kind of keep it up there tight. So we disrupt the bearings, spindle bearings, as little as possible when we kick off the pulley. Now, there we are. Okay, so I'm putting pressure on the carriage, and then I'm just going to lock it in place. Now the spindle is going to move a little bit, and we're going to have to reset the bearings, but it won't fall out. Probably should have done this before removing the belt. Let's see how this works. Yeah, should be all right. Actually, I'm going to leave this in place until we get the motor out. All right. So the big problem with this, let me take the camera off the stand here. We got 4 bolts, hopefully. So there's 2 bolts on top here, and there's 2 underneath here. And a lot of people have difficulty getting to these. So I'm going to bring out the secret weapon we're going to see how well this approach works. So the secret weapon is two parts to it. It's a crow's foot and the length of wood with the carriage bolts. This is our jack. So our lathe jack goes right like this. So it just flips in there. And whatever size hole, I'm sure these aren't all the same, exactly the same, they're castings. So we'll just make a piece of wood that fits in there. And I've got two carriage bolts in there. You probably can't see it, but there are nuts down in the wood that I pressed into the wood. And the nuts, you know, the carriage bolts just rides on the nuts. And we're going to screw these down and tighten it up. And then we're going to see, you know, the lathe raise up. And that should give us enough access. All right, I'm just going to take the whole cover off here. And this idler and pulley here. Let's move the camera down. There we go. Okay, so now we have a little ratchet here, 1/4-inch drive ratchet, and we've got the crow's foot, 14mm crow's foot. Okay, so we'll shoot for the hardest bolts. Okay, well, yeah, that one was loose, right? And then, okay. All right, so the back one was a little bit loose too. All right. Let me raise the camera up. We get the top one. Back to the crow's foot. There we go. All right. I got one more wire to come off, the ground wire. The yellow ground wire, which is okay. So motor's a little bit heavy, it's 30 pounds. At least the 3-phase one is. Well, that's it on that. Clean that up a little bit. So that worked out pretty well, pretty easy. So let me get the nuts and the washers. So there's the old one next to the new one. I've got the VFD here programmed. I'm going to plug this in and then we'll check it out real quick. Let me run this down real slow. Probably hard to see in the video, but I'll drop it down to its lowest. I think it's 15. So I might need to adjust the max parameters for this. Probably could have just gone starting at the highest and go one up. Might roll over. So there we are. We're at 15. It's the lowest. We hit the run stop button, and there you go. Let's roll it over to go to 120. And let's see. Here, I'll stop. All right. So now it's 120. We'll start it up. Very smooth. So that's going full speed now. I might be able to adjust this higher. I'll put a tachometer on the lathe. I know the 4-jaw chuck is max 3,800. I think the 3-jaw is max 24. No, it's 3. Max 3,000 RPM. So given the gear ratio, I'll adjust the VFD to, produce the speeds we want. Next step is just to mount the motor, change the pulleys, put the new belt on. So let's get back to doing that. Ooh. I'm not going to tighten this because I don't know the correct placement right now, so we're just going to leave that there. That worked quite well. All right. So I'm raising this up because I'm having a little trouble reaching in and starting the bolt and the washer. Close foot isn't going to help getting it started. So just raise it up, give it a little more clearance from my hand. All right. All right, I've got the washer. All right, so now we're going to work on the pulleys here. So the motor's still loose, and get the other lock nut off. Okay. That always comes off so nice. All right. This is a 3D printed pulley. It's a 3G pulley. I think I might have to heat this too. So heat it up just a bit. There we go. That's good. Put the cover back on. There we go. We'll try it out here. Okay, I'm going to put the power on. Or the motor anyway. There we go. And we'll start it out low. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's the lowest. I have on my encoder video, I think there's 3 of them. The third one I go into detail about adjusting the pulley tension or the bearing tension. And I go into a little bit of detail. I'm not going to go over the same thing. Just look at that video. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Like I said, I'm planning on hooking up an ELS and hooking up the encoder, and we'll have a couple of series on making the pieces for that. I went ahead and went with this timing belt because I didn't like the V belts. I didn't like having all this stuff, you know, hanging off of here and the other pulleys. And we don't need it with the VFD, so take all this off, clean it up. You can technically have probably less tension on your timing pulley because it is toothed rather than a V belt, which in turn is nicer on the bearings, the spindle bearings. So for right now, I can use this. You know, I'll probably set it on a box or something down out of the way. Put the cover on when I go to use the lathe, but the lathe is operational here. Can't really see that. That's the slowest speed it's going. I'll run it up about halfway. Like I said, I don't want to go too much higher than that. I want to adjust the bearings. Well, that's it for today's video. If you like the content, please consider subscribing and leave a comment. Thanks for watching. Take care.